right, so we are plugging right along with Chapter 3. Today is Day 3 notes. It goes right along with what we did yesterday. We'll be writing equations and solving them. So we'll just jump right into the examples. Number 1. Everyone know where they're at in their notes? All right. The sum of 92 and 3 times a number is 128. Find the number. So this is a lot like our second half of the problems yesterday. So here are some key words that are popping out at me. Sum means what? Addition. 3 times a number. What is that going to mean? 3n or 3x. Is where my equal sign goes. And you have to define your variable first. So that goes right along with what you said. N is going to be our number. So we have to first write a let statement or define the variable. N is going to equal a number. And then just write what you know. We know that we have 92. We have a sum. We have 3 times the number. Then we have our is, our equal sign. And then the 128. This is the hard part. Once you write the equation, that's like what we were doing yesterday. That's what you did on your homework last night. Everyone seems to be pretty good at that. Hopefully, maybe it's wishful thinking on my part. But I think the hardest part is taking those words and making a math problem. Once you have the math problem, I think you're good. The equation you're going to solve. So how will I solve this? Yep, subtract that 92 from both sides first. So that gives me 3n equals 36. And remember, calculators are on. Go for it. And then divide by 3. And n equals 12. I always like to stop and reread these once I found my answer. So the sum of 92 and 3 times a number. So 3 times a number would be 3 times 12, which would be 36. And if I add 36 to 92, do I really get 128? I do. So this solution works, okay? Do you have any questions? If you decrease the product of 16 and a number by 52, the result is 300. Find the number. Here are the words that are jumping out at me. Product means multiply. Decrease means subtract. Good. The result is, that's going to be the equal sign. Okay, good. And we're going to let n equal the number that we are talking about. All right, does anyone else, I mean, we have a lot of words, but I'm not really sure what to do now. Yes, ma'am. Okay, good. She said 16x minus 52 equals 300. The only thing I would change is the n, because I just said let n equal a number. So once you say that you're going to use an n, you got to use an n. But if you said you were going to use an x, go for the x. So we want to decrease the product. So we're going to put the product first, 16 times n. Then I'm going to subtract the 52 equals 300. So that's my equation. Any questions on how we got that? From here, you just solve it. How would I solve this? Add the 52 to both sides. Good. Divide by 16. 22 is my n. Raise your hand if you have any questions. All right, here's number 3. This says Harry and George are twins. their brother, who is 15 years younger than the sum of their age, is 25. How old are the twins? This is one I might have to read a couple times. So we have two boys, right?
No.
Brothers. They have another brother, so there's three brothers, right? He's 15 years younger than the sum of their age. And we're looking for how old the twins are. Okay. 15 years younger probably means what? Yeah, we're going to end up subtracting 15. Good. Sum of their age. What's that part mean? We're going to add their ages together. If they're twins, what do we know about their ages? They're the same. Very good. And then, of course, is will be where the equal sign goes, and then we'll have the 25. So now I'm going to use an X. I'm going to let X represent their age. Since it's going to be the same thing, you don't have to have like X for George, Y for Harry, or anything like that. It's going to be the same number. So X will represent the boys, the twins' age. So I want the sum of their age. So 1X for Harry, 1X for George, and you have to add those together. The brother is 15 years younger, and that equals 25. Do you guys have any questions on how I got this? Do you have a question or the answer? A question. Yes, so that's our next step, is to combine the x's. So if you were in your head, you went right to 2x minus 15 equals 25, that's fine. I would just be a little cautious when you do that, because sum does mean add. So as long as you did it correctly, that's kind of a bad way to answer that question. But yeah, sum means add. If you're adding the same number together, then that's 2 of that number. Yep. And that works because multiplication is just repeated addition, so you're good. All right, now we solve. So you're going to add 15 to both sides. 2x equals what? 40. Divide by 2. And it's going to equal 20. Good. What are your questions? And then, of course, since it's a word problem like this, where we're not just talking about a number, you do need a label on the end. So 20 represents years old. Yes?
Instead of Harry and George, can it be Fred and George?
Sure. Well, Harry Potter. I like it. Harry and George are the princes, right? Are they twins? In England? Isn't it Prince George, Prince Harry? Are they twins?
Harry Potter.
Fred and George is Harry Potter. Harry and George.
I ain't never watched a Harry Potter movie in my life. I watched half one before.
All right, we're going to look up the family tree when we're done. Let's move on. All right, number 4. The perimeter of a rectangle. So you had one on your homework last night, right? That was the perimeter of a square. So you could do n plus n plus n plus n because they're all the same in a square. That's not going to work here because we have a rectangle. But same general idea, slightly different. The perimeter of a rectangle is 130 meters. If its width is 12 meters, find the length. So we know that this is how you find perimeter, right? It's 2 times the length plus 2 times the width, or kind of like we were just talking about. If you want to write L plus W and then combine the like terms, go for it. We're going to let L represent the length, and W is going to stand for the width, right? So I'm going to take width out, and since I already know the width, I'm going to substitute a 12 in. Okay? I also took perimeter out and I substituted in 130 because that's the perimeter. So we took out the parts that we already know and we put variables in for the parts that we don't know. Everybody still with me? From here, you can actually go ahead and solve. So you want to go ahead and multiply the 2 and the 12. That gives you 24. Then what? Subtract 24 from both sides. Good. Then what? Divide both sides by 2. Good. And 53 what? Meters. We're talking about meters here. Don't forget the little M. All right. Here's where they get super fun. Yes. I'll give you some time to write this down. You have a little chart in your notes. But this will help explain the words that you'll see a lot in these problems. Consecutive integers just means numbers right in a row. Consecutive even integers. So they have to be in an order, you know, starting with whatever, 2, 4, 6, 8. You could start at 6 and then it'd be like 6 and 8 and 10. But they go in order, only the evens, and then that's how you write them using variables down below. And then consecutive odds are like 1, 3, 5, 7. So they go in order and it's only the odds. The cool thing about this is if you start with an even and you add 2, you end up at an even number, right? If you start at an odd, you still only add 2 to end up at the next odd. So whether you're doing even or odd, you kind of set it up the same way, which is nice. All right, so again, I'll give you a couple minutes to just get all this down and then we'll practice. All right, so here's number 5. So it's going along with that idea of consecutive integers. So it says find 3 consecutive integers whose sum is 24. So we are going to write an equation. Then we're going to solve for x. And then we're going to plug it back into the equation to get the other integers. That's sort of the plan of attack over on the right. So when we're setting up consecutive integer problems, where do we start? What do we call the first integer? X. What would we call the next integer? X plus 1. And the third integer, because we want 3 of them, x plus 2. Good. So once you have that first number, that's your x. To go up to the next number, you just add 1. To go up to the next number, you add 2. So that's how we set these up. So x is our first, x plus 1 is our second, x plus 2 is our third. And I want the sum of all these 3 numbers to equal 24. So my equation is x plus 1 plus x plus 2. I'm just adding the 3 integers is 24. I'm going to pause there for you guys to catch up. That was kind of a lot of rapid fire information. A lot of this came straight from that chart, though, that you just filled out. All right, so how would I set up that equation? Like, how would I go from here? It's already set up, but then what? Yes, ma'am. Sure. Combine like terms. So the x's go with x's. There's 3 x's, right? And then the constants go together, the 1 and the 2. 1 plus 2 is 3. And then from here, it's pretty simple to solve, right? You just subtract 3 from both sides. And then you divide by 3. And what's x going to equal? 7. Good. Now, consecutive integers is a fancy way to say numbers right in a row. So if you start at 7, yes? 8 and 9. Good. So our directions over here say to plug it back into these equations to figure out what the second and the third ones are. I honestly don't even do that. I just know if I'm starting at 7, the next 2 integers would be 8 and 9. Here, though, I always stop and then double check to see if it works. What's 7 plus 8 plus 9?
24.
It better be 24 or I need to redo the problem. Okay? Questions? All right, here is number 6. Now we want to find 4 consecutive odd integers. Ooh, lots happening. Whose sum is 96. Any thoughts? Yes, ma'am?
You have to, because it's odd, you don't add 1, you add 2. And then
Yeah, so the first one's always x, right? Let's say x is 5. I have no idea what it is yet. I haven't done this problem. But let's say x is 5. If I want the next odd number, I can't just add 1. That would take me to 6. That's even. So if you want odds or if you want evens, you have to add 2 to get to the next integer. Very good. So if the first one's x, the second one is x plus 2. What would our third one be? X plus 4. Again, if you're talking about odds and you have 5 and 7, the next odd is all the way up to 9, right? So you still need to add that extra 1 each time. And then keep the pattern going. To get to the fourth odd integer, you would add 6. Whether you're wanting evens or odds, these are always going up by 2. Okay? If you're just looking for integers, they're going up by 1. If you're looking for odds or evens, they're going up by 2. Okay? The only difference is when we add them, x should be an odd number. If the question said evens, once we solve it, x should be an even number. So that's kind of the way you catch odds versus evens. The setup is the same. All right, again, we want the sum. So what do I do with x and x plus 2 and x plus 4 and x plus 6? So first, what do I want to do? Write an equation. Yeah. X plus 2 plus x plus 4 plus x plus 6 equals 96. You have to write the equation first before you can solve it. But you are correct. The first step to solving that equation is to combine like terms. So add the x's. We have 1, 2, 3, 4 of them. And then we have 2, 4, 6. So that should give me 4x plus 12 still equals 96. Then what? Subtract 12 from both sides. And then divide by 4. X equals 21. Oh, that's good. It's an odd number. What's the next odd number after 21? 23. Then 25. Then 27. And I want 4 of them. Now, especially if you have a calculator, I would stop and do 21 plus 23 plus 25 plus 27 equals, and if you get anything on your screen besides 96, you need to start over. You messed up. Any questions on the consecutive integer, consecutive odds? All right, we do have one last example. Number 7 for today's notes says triple the smallest of 3 consecutive integers is 4 less than the sum of the other 2. Yikes. Let's just try to set some stuff up before we panic, okay? So these are my steps. This is what I'm doing for all of these. So the first thing I need to take into account is that it's 3 consecutive integers. So my first one is x. My second one is x plus 1. My third one is x plus 2. Everybody still with me? What do I want to do to the smallest one? Yeah, I want triple the smallest integer. Is. Okay? So triple the smallest integer is. So that's going to be 3 times x. All right, so triple the smallest integer is, I'm all the way to here in my sentence, 4 less than the sum of the other 2. 4 less than means we're going to subtract 4 on the end, and then we want the sum of the second and the third. That's where this part comes from. Does everyone see where all these pieces came from? Okay, so we have 3 consecutive integers, right? The first one I'm calling x. The second one I'm calling x plus 1. The third one I'm calling x plus 2. I want triple the smallest. The smallest one would be the first integer, right? So 3 times x. Is, so that's where my equal sign goes. 4 less than. 4 less than means you're going to subtract 4 at the end. The sum, that means add, of the other 2 integers. So the second one and the third one. So it's kind of like a puzzle. You have these 3 pieces, x, x plus 1, x plus 2, and you're just fitting them in according to what this says. All right? So you just kind of go step by step. Take a piece, put it where it goes. Take a piece, put it where it goes until it all kind of fits. Then we're going to solve, and then we're going to see if it actually makes sense. So when you solve this, you combine like terms first. So I combine the x's here to get 2x. The 1 and the 2 gives me a plus 3. And then I still have the minus 4 on the end. You can clean that up a little further. So 3 minus 4 was negative 1. Now, we haven't seen any like this. Do you guys know what to do here? Thanks. Thank you. Yes? Yeah, you want to get the x's together, so you actually are going to subtract this whole term. You're going to subtract 2x from both sides, and that gives us x equal to negative 1. All right, and if x equals negative 1, then the next integer would be 0, and the next integer would be 1. Now, I'm going to reread this and see if it makes sense. Triple the smallest. So that would be 3 times this one. That'd be negative 3, right? And then they want us to add these two and subtract 4 from it, which would be negative 3, right? 0 plus 1 is 1. Take away 4 is negative 3. So this does make sense. Kind of a tricky one. But when I stop and think about it, it works. Any questions? All right. What did we learn today? How would you describe this process?
Exhausting.
Yes.
Different integers?
Yeah, so consecutive integers. So yes, that is kind of where we ended up. We did some word problems first that did not involve consecutive integers, but we kind of spent most of our notes today talking about consecutive integer word problems. Any questions?